We've all heard of it. The sandbox indie release that rose to glorifying heights almost overnight. A simple concept turned viral and attained worldwide popularity before it even saw an alpha release. Digging up this gem would result in sleepless nights immersed in a simple yet highly addictive atmosphere. With a multitude of different biomes, interactive items in different player modes, and limitless exploration that allowed the player to cover even the distance of Earth itself, turning over landscapes the size of continents, it was the first game to come along where you truly felt empowered. Create your own house, your own city, your own world, your own experience. But not all of those experiences were of empowerment. Sometime after the game's release, a creepypasta had surfaced, targeting Minecraft's innocent nature. It involved talk of a haunted pseudo-player mob that appeared at random in the servers, going by the name of Herobrine. Description of the character depicted the mob in standard skin, but with one detail subject to change: his eyes. They were a pair of white, lifeless voids. No pupils or any sign of texturing, just dead. The creepypasta goes on to state that the writer journeyed to the forums to find a solution to his problem, as he had only seen the player but one time and brushed off the experience as nothing but a benign glitch. After starting a few discussions on the page, he was greeted with a single message to his profile, the user's name, Herobrine, and the message containing one word: stop. Following the page to the user's profile would result in a 404. After this happened, and after previous attempts to get to the bottom of this little mystery he had on his hands all were to no avail, someone did get back with him with an email after a few days. He stated that the site moderators may have taken the forums down, so they were safer using just email. Not only did he attest to seeing the haunted player as well, but he suggested he had a small directory of people who had all seen him before popping up in their own games as well. When asked, they all shared an identical description: a default skin with voids for eyes. After staring at them for just a few seconds, the pseudo-player would turn and run off into the forest, never to be seen again. Around the last few lines of the narrative, the writer reveals to his audience that he personally emailed Notch, the creator and lead programmer of Minecraft. Another avid player had surfaced information about Notch's supposed brother by the name of Herobrine. The email asked Notch if he truly had a brother, to which an incredibly delayed response finally answered the question, saying, "I did, but he is no longer with us," resulting in the following conspiracy to spawn, saying Herobrine was the spirit of the deceased brother of Notch that spent his days traveling through the servers as just a line of code. It's kinda sad. Herobrine gained cult following after the creepypasta had been on the web for a good 2 years or so. You couldn't even refer to the game Minecraft without someone on the internet asking you if you had seen Herobrine in your game. Now, of course, with popularity comes the bandwagon. People started claiming, with no concrete evidence, that Herobrine was appearing in all of their games. Hoaxes were staged, and the internet was taken by storm within days. The most popular hoax, and in my opinion really well done, was by a streamer by the name of Brocraft, admittedly photoshopping images to where it looked like no matter where you were in the world, Herobrine was always somewhere in the background, staring at you, waiting for you to notice him. The hoax involved playing on a multiplayer server with a few of his fellow streamers, when an unidentified mob walked up to him, and the streamer started attacking him. He vanished, and the stream was immediately cut short, leaving hundreds of watchers in the chat confused and completely unaware of what was about to befall them next. I truly feel sorry for anyone who was in the chat that day. The stream came back on, but this time not to any sort of gameplay. An image flickered on the screen. It was supposed to be Herobrine, only with, as described in the chat, hyper-realistic eyes with black pupils. Below his face was incredibly jumbled text. No one really knew what it meant until people started deciphering it and putting the pieces together. After taking out all of the non-alphabetical characters, they were left with a message that would have kept me up for days. The message read, "It has been reported that some victims of torture during the act would retreat into a fantasy world from which they could not wake up. In this catatonic state, the victim lived in a world just like their normal one, except they weren't being tortured. The only way that they realized they needed to wake up was a note they found in their fantasy world. It would tell them about their condition and tell them to wake up. Even then, it would often take months until they were ready to discard their fantasy world and please wake up." To the people in the chat room, this was unsettling, to put it lightly. The news of the stream circulated, and Herobrine quickly rose to meme status, and was throwing the entire internet into a frenzied panic. And it didn't help when Mojang themselves even decided to contribute, and under every update for the latest Minecraft patch, repetitively insinuated that Herobrine was removed. So, where does the canon lie? Is the mystery of the pseudo-player so incredibly covered up and backed by vague evidence that is automatically disregarded as false just because of low quality? How many pieces of possibly factual evidence and proof have we skimmed over in the process of trying to mull out all the lies? Is Herobrine real? I usually like to end these stories on an open note. That said, I hate to break it to you, but no, he's not. For every claim I've suggested in this video, waiting on standby, there is either a logical explanation or another staged hoax. First, nowhere in the source code does the random map generator build structures such as 2x2 tunnels, redstone torches, groves of leafless trees, or anything else the original creepypasta hints around to. We're left to assume those were all just placed by another player that happened to be in the same game. On top of that, there are two things wrong with the stream theory. The first is obvious, being that the streamer, after being questioned for a year, admittedly broke down and stated that he faked the stream, breaking the validity of the story and leading to an outrage amongst his followers. Another stream was uploaded on the same channel, where another streamer tried to emulate pretty much the same thing, but people caught on to it really fast, and proclaimed that the entire stream was being faked. A few minutes later, the host also faked a game crash, not to add to his own story, but just because the hate being displayed in the chat room was so overwhelming. Now, we here at the channel have been hit with some pretty morbidly bad news regarding creepypastas lately. A few weeks ago, a kid was actually brutally assaulted and stabbed because someone else believed that to appease a tall man in the forest that doesn't even exist, they were to give him a sacrifice. And so that's what the girl was. What I'm saying is, as intense and horrific as these stories are, guys, we have to be able to separate reality from fiction and realize they're just stories. They're made to scare you. Ben, Slenderman, Jeff the Killer, Smile.jpg, Herobrine, all of them, they're written for the fictional horror regime and are made for your enjoyment. And I enjoy reading them, and so does my brother. I wanted to end this episode on a positive note specifically just for the sake of acknowledging that there are people out there that cannot distinguish between fact and fiction. And I just want to say to those people, you know, it's okay to be scared by these stories. It's okay to have a sleepless night or two because you thought you saw the closet door open just a little bit. Do you honestly think when I got to the end of Smile.jpg, I didn't absolutely shit myself and stay up for another 36 hours looking out my bedroom window? No. No, hell no, dude, I was terrified. But a couple nights passed and I was back in my room sleeping like nothing ever happened. So, no, I'm sorry, but Herobrine isn't real. And we have to accept as a community that these stories are only for entertainment purposes. When people start getting legitimately hurt over these, that's when we let them become real. And then they're scarier than any other creepypasta in the world because of that. So, if you get anything from this, enjoy scary stories, but don't take them to heart. And please, wake up.